We did a flyover through the budget totals worksheet last time of the different reserves and what they are. So the first one is our employee compensation reserve. Typically we call it the salary reserve. This was created back in 2020 to help us mitigate budget fluctuations that would be detrimental to employees, such as layoffs like we went through in 2017. Currently these are all balances as of June 12th after I did all the annual transfers. So there's a little over or almost 2 million in there. In 2024, we didn't, or the commission didn't choose to transfer into there at that time. The next one is our county building reserve. This was in 2020 to help fund repairs and maintenance, much of which was deferred maintenance, such as, roofs and things like that. This balance, the 675,000, I'm sure there's many payments yet to come out of that. I'm not sure where they are in the billing cycle for the different roofs.
I think most of that'll be depleted once the roofs are paid out.
Okay. And then this last current fiscal year, we did transfer 446,000 in there. The next one is our contingency fund. This one is to help the county budgets when, we've had severe constraints, revenue downfalls, pending maybe not getting federal money when we thought we would. These were all derived through the state legislatures money that they give us through direct aid. So none of these items can be used for salaries or any kind of personnel. Currently there's like 4.5 million in there. The majority of this money is invested, so it's growing as we speak. The next one is our general reserves, and it's intended for a reserve to cover expenditures up to 6 months during or after a catastrophic event for the county. This one was formed previous to 2003. When I first started here in 2003, I think I had $100,000 in it or so, roughly. It wasn't much.
It was sad, is what it was.
Yeah.
Sad.
So there's nearly 3 million in there. The emergency reserves, that's, as you guys probably, I think you've used it before, for those super emergent needs where we have to have cash right now. And then the new facilities reserve, we previously called this a Beach Street improvements, but we since renamed it for a new facility, which there's 4.1 million in there. So this goes to another point, is that the county, with all of our reserves, are trying to be able to meet our obligations for 6 months with all the reserves. Our obligations over 6 months, including all the grants that come in, because many of them we have to pay up front and then we get reimbursed after the fact. 6 months of our expenditure is roughly right about 15. I think I have it in another worksheet. I just don't have it on this one.
So we skate right on the edge.
Yeah. So if something would happen with our cash flow, banking systems, banking system are still screwed. Anyway, disregard that last comment. Anyway, if something should happen, we have enough money to get by for about 6 months. So the next thing is that super tiny amount to transfer, as you see. So right now we have a surplus after everything that's in the general fund has been appropriated and revenues estimated of a little over 2 million. Right now, as it stands, 1% has about 559,000. Direct aid is showing a negative but I don't have a beginning cash there. I'm expecting invoice from the software conversion process. So I don't really know how much that's going to be yet. And it could end up being in July. So that negative, I feel, is going to be gone with cash on hand in direct aid. So, Any questions I can answer?
So I have a couple. With the ERP, $1 million commitment, is that reflective in any of these amounts?
So the ERP is in, let me share a different worksheet. So the ERP is, we figured we got about 500,000 left in this next fiscal year. That's also dependent on if that invoice comes in, we might have to modify that number. But that's where it's reflected, is in the budget totals worksheet under the direct aid.
Because I absolutely have an aversion to, using letters instead of words, would you please say what?
Oh, sure. So, acronyms. Yes.
Acronyms, like.
I know, there's so many acronyms in the world. ERP is Enterprise Resource Planning, which will be our new accounting software and also our Human Capital Management, HCM. You'll hear that one probably through that process.
The words,
Yes,
not the acronyms.
I know. We've been doing this conversion and throw out some acronyms at us and then we're like, what's that? Because that's something else in the accounting world.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's so confusing.
Mm-hmm.
So would you think, Tracy, is about 15 million flat with the roofs paid that our reserves are, because I'm guessing that the roofs came in, I think this came in at 400,000 and some change, and then IT, a couple 100,000. Is that, or is it lower than 15 million or? where are we
No,
at?
I would say 15 million is probably a good estimate. Barring changes in when the interest comes in on investments, because many of those funds are invested.
Okay.
Not all of them, but many.
And does that include the PILT?
We haven't received PILT yet, and it's not been released on their website of how much we're gonna get yet. So I'm thinking it should be any day. It's usually around like the 20th-ish of June.
Right before that.
Yeah, right before. Last year it was 1.7 million, so I'm hoping it's at least that. It was fully funded this year. I don't know why they can't just tell us, to be quite honest.
So that might leave, looking at our funds here, about 500,000 in addition, perhaps. If it came in at 1.7, since we're showing a 1.1-ish shortfall. Am I thinking about that right? Yeah, for the next fiscal year.
For next fiscal year, I don't have 1.7 million, and I use the WCCA's revenue estimating manual, and I think that was 1,200,000 and some. They're usually pretty conservative about it because of the political nature of PILT. It gets attached to sometimes some unpopular bills to help the unpopular bill pass through Congress.
Right. And so with everything we've approved at this point, this is where we sit for fiscal 25 with 1.2 in PILT. I'm just trying to understand.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And then my estimated cash on hand for the end of the fiscal year is a little over 3 million.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions? Could you go back to that worksheet that has all the balances of those accounts and kind of highlight which ones we can use for salaries and which ones we cannot?
The reserves.
Yeah, the reserves. Thank you, Tracy.
Of course. Hey, it stayed big too. So the employee compensation, that's clearly is designated and for that use of salaries and employee benefits. General reserves Yeah, you could probably use that. It's not restricted by anybody else other than the commission's action. Emergency reserves, I would not recommend just because you do have emergencies happen from time to time. The new facility reserves, that was created by the commission, so you could uncreate it and use it for other purposes if you chose to do so. The only ones that really cannot be used for any kind of salaries is the contingency because of the direct aid tie. On the building fund, obviously, because it's gonna be gone soon.
Right, right. We'd have to refill that building fund.
Yeah.
Commissioners, any questions? Kayla or Amanda, anything to add to that?
Not to the reserves, I think, unless Tracy wants to talk about any transfers, and I don't know if we want to do that now or
I
if you want to hold off.
kind of have a dollar amount, you know, that you can transfer. It's at about that 2.5 million. But I think it's better to have the other discussions before we talk about transfers, because that might change that answer
Okay.
or suggestions.
All right. I guess that leaves the discussion to be had, the salaries.
Can I, do
Sure.
you want to talk about 1% first? Or
I was gonna let everybody else leave and talk about it, because
Okay.
there's people that thought we consider be here for
Okay,
it.
perfect. We can talk about salaries first then.
Did we get anything lower than the 3.5? No, 3% last time, Amanda, as far as salaries.
I asked for 2.5.
278.5, I
Oh,
believe.
2,785, yeah.
I believe is that still the number that's pretty close?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Well, she can quote whatever number.
So just to give everybody a background, 1% salary across the board is about $110,000 in that neighborhood. So a 5% would be a 550,000 hit to the budget. The interesting thing about salary increases, which you all know, is that 5% will continue into next year's budget. And so that has to be planned for not just this year, but in the following years. So I'm not sure how you all want to do this, but I kind of want to have a conversation about where you want to, what you've seen all the background of what we're looking at. And I know there's some strong opinions on either side. And so if anybody would like to lead, I'd like to list the program heads and or elected officials and program directors. And then away we would go. And if you don't want to speak, you don't have to. But if you'd like to, the goal is to have an open conversation so that people can understand the decisions we make. Sometimes they happen in a vacuum and that's not useful. So anybody? All right, Sheriff.
I will go first.
Yep.
So I wasn't able to be here at you guys' last meeting because I was traveling for work, although I was brought up to speed by my staff in terms of some of the asks that we made and then some of the discussions that you guys had in the afternoon. And so my conversation really isn't that I would like to have with you guys, to be honest, is not geared towards the entire county. So it's geared almost specifically towards the sheriff's office. So similar to the presentation that I gave, was it last week on there, which was also very specific to the sheriff's office as well. So there's two things that I would like to kind of discuss with you guys today, kind of given the information I was given on the conversations that you guys had last week, last afternoon. So the first one that I would like to revisit is the law enforcement retirement that we had discussed about having the county fund the increase that's required by state statute that was passed on there. Just to give you a recap, And you guys can stop me if you don't need the recap, but that's, that statutory requirement is that there's a 3-year increase. And kind of how I explained last time is that the increase is split up into 3 sections. And the only section I really wanted to focus on was this year's section, because the way we go through our budget planning, we do kind of budget a little bit long-term, but commissions and elected officials change over time. And so the big portion that I wanted to really focus on was this year. And the way that's split up is that there's an increase in law enforcement retirement to bring it up to actuary for this next coming fiscal year, 2024-2025, of 0.9%. And the following years, it would be a 1.8% increase for essentially for 2 years to get to the total of 5%, which was approved by the legislature. Also in that bill, it gives that option between the employer, in this case would be the sheriff's office, or the county commissioner through the sheriff's office, and the employee to divvy up how that's going to be covered. And so, and as I asked last week, I asked the commission to cover the 0.9% in full. Some of the statistics that we didn't have at the time, but Amanda was so gracious to run last time, that would be an increase of roughly about 60 grand, I believe, to cover that cost. So as of right now, we have 2 different retirement systems within the county. We have one for basically non-law enforcement and another one for law enforcement, the way it's set up. For non-law enforcement, the county pays 15.19%. And then the employee pays roughly about 3.43%, as it is right now. For the law enforcement retirement, without making the decision on the request that I've made, law enforcement retirement, the county pays roughly about 13.47%, and the employee pays roughly about 3.73%. So in funding the retirement for law enforcement for our sworn deputies, essentially that would bring us to about the same amount that you're already paying for non-law enforcement retirement. So essentially in the 60,000 that we're asking for, it's going to be divided, roughly around 50 deputies there. So it essentially comes out to about $1,000 a year per deputy, which if you break that down even more, it's a little less than $100 a month. So in asking you to fund that full amount, that's really kind of the nuts and bolts of it, that brass tacks. I'm asking you guys to give those deputies an extra $100 a month to fund that retirement. I know that retirement system is a little bit different for law enforcement than it is for county employees. We don't run on the rule of 85. It is a 20-year pension. So, but the amount that we're asking you guys to fund, like I said, is fairly minimal. Unfortunately, not every deputy is guaranteed to finish their career in 20 years. We would love all of them to do so, but most of them don't. And the county isn't expected to continue to fund that past their employment, whether they retire and then they start pulling from the fund, or if they separate employment from the sheriff's office or from the county as well. So if you look at it on a 20 years perspective, that's probably a high number, but highly unrealistic. So if you look at it as funding now and even continuing that funding through the statutory requirement, like I said, it's a very small ask. So I'm here today as one of the 2 asks that I'll make of you guys to consider to fully fund that. So for the benefit of our deputies.
Commissioners, any questions for the sheriff on that piece?
please take this time. If you guys do have any questions, concerns, reservations, anything, please, let's take this time to hash that out. This is going to be the best time for me to give you those direct responses instead of waiting at a later time.
I don't have any for this year, Sheriff, but I certainly do have for next year.
Yep, I'm fully aware that we will probably have this same conversation next year at 1.8%. And that's why we're not really moving on to that next year, because there's a lot of different things that can happen. So in terms of what that funding is, what the revenue is coming in as, some of the other funding, either requirements or cuts or anything else the state legislature is going to look at that county level as well. So, but this year we know what we have, we know what we got. Like I said, I'm just asking you guys to do, for the most part, what needs to be done and what's good for not only the organization, but for all of our deputies that are involved as well.
All right, I guess we'll move on to point 2.
Point 2, salaries, part of the reason why we're all here. We provided you with printouts, different scenarios of salary increases for the sheriff's office. We also provided you guys with starting salaries of all the sheriff's offices within the state, including starting salaries for the other law enforcement agencies solely within Albany County. Again, like I explained last time, we took out starting salaries for law enforcement within the region, simply because we already kind of know that county's not going to be able to compete with some of the northern Colorado counties that are there. It's a different financial situation that it is. And so we really wanted to focus our ask specifically, like I said, at our department, and what that comparison is specifically with law enforcement that's within Albany County and our surrounding counties as well. So we asked for 6.5% last time. We know that there were some reservations, and based on the information that I was given, it seemed that the conversation that you guys had in the afternoon had turned away a little bit from salaries requested from the sheriff's office to salaries requested by the sheriff's office, and possibly the same percentage given then to every employee across the county, which is not what was asked by the sheriff's office. We took the responsibility to focus on our office specifically. So some of the numbers that I wanted to give you guys today, and like I said, not only do you guys have a 6.5% option, but there is also a 6% option, 5%, 4%, down to 3% as well. Our salary matrix is in there also, which is what I wanted to remind you guys of, how we created that step matrix based on 2021 and continuing trying to keep pace with either cost of living increases or other increases to that starting salary, so that when we got to be honest, when we got to this point and we started to talk about trying to make sure that we stay close to market value, that jump wouldn't be nearly as huge as it was when we did make that jump in 2021. So trying to be financially responsible, not only for the county, but for that office as well. So some other numbers that we can kind of give you guys for you to consider is that sheriff's office has done a pretty good job recruiting people over the last 3 years that I've been here, but we struggle a little bit in terms of retaining employees. Because of that presents a lot of different scenarios that we have. The sheriff's office has returned approximately, this year, we'll probably end up returning conservatively about $289,000 to the county. And over the last 3 years, we've averaged just roughly, right around $300,000 that we return to the county every year. Combination of that comes from salaries that weren't filled. We've also been fairly successful in getting grant money, outside money to pay for a lot of the other equipment and needs that we have within the sheriff's office that doesn't necessarily need to be pulled from county budget. So in that 6.5% increase that we are asking for, the hard number that comes to is $212,708.
212,000.
$212,708.84 if you're counting all the beans.
No, I didn't.
So when you look at those two asks just on its face, we said we're going to be returning roughly about $289,000 this year. We're asking for an increase next year in $212,000 in salaries, plus the $60,000 in retirement. So essentially what we're returning is going to cover that increase. And that's just on its face. Some other things that you guys really should take into consideration, we would like you to take into consideration when you're looking at trying to figure out those increases specifically for the sheriff's office. I know in the past that we have looked at salary increases as a county as a whole. And we've talked about a little bit, but we're probably going to need to address directly here at this meeting is that not every job that we have within the county is the same. We have different people with different talents and different responsibilities. And therefore it's directly tied to different compensations on there as well. So the sheriff's office is no different, not only within the sheriff's office, but how the sheriff's office functions as an office within the county. There's a whole different set of responsibilities and requirements that the sheriff's office has. And essentially what we're asking for you guys today is just to make sure that we're fairly compensated for the things that we have to do. And the differences are okay. So possibly uncomfortable, but okay. So the expectations that's put on the sheriff's office for the things that we have to deal with are different than some of the day-to-day tasks with the other offices, and there's nothing wrong with that. So that's not talking down to any of the other offices. It's not talking up any one office. It's just the reality of what we have here. So, and as financial stewards of the county, like I said, sometimes those difficult decisions need to be made of having a different compensation for different offices. So a big need is to be compensated equally within Albany County for the sheriff's office. So if we continue to lose pace amongst our own county and then surrounding counties as well, as we address this situation year in and year out, the gap is going to continue to get larger and larger and larger. And I would really, really, really like to avoid, what we had to go through in 2021. We got lucky in 2021 with it being COVID and having some federal dollars being able to come in, and supplement some of the needs of the county. But short of a global pandemic happening for a second time, I'm not exactly sure we're going to be able to go through that again. So it'll be important to keep pace. And so we have that opportunity to do it now at a much lower cost than it would be in the future. And so I'm going to strongly suggest to the county commissioners that said, try and bridge that gap now before it gets larger in the future. So, like I said on Tuesday as well, part of the reason for the salary increase isn't not just to bridge the gap, but also to help with retention as well. Fully expected that this won't solve 100% the retention issues that we have within the county. Some of them aren't necessarily directly tied to salary, but they will solve a good portion of them on there as well. So, to give you some insight and some numbers, just salary wise, if we hire a deputy and they leave after their first year, after they're fully trained, it costs the county roughly about $61,000. That's just in salary and benefits alone. If you add the equipment in there, depending on the time that they spent with equipment and training, that's anywhere between, real large gap is 20 to 30,000. By the end of year one, it's roughly really about $28,000 to $30,000 in there. So giving an increase in funds and then helping to solve a good portion of our retention issues, even though it seems like we're spending money, it's going to help us save money in the long time. So you guys have heard me say this sometimes before, where sometimes you gotta spend money to make money. So, and this is one of those issues where, like I said, being able to retain people more often is going to really save us a lot of money in the long run. So that, for the most part, is my, like I said, is my ask, is my presentation. I know it's a lot for you guys to consider, but that's what we're asking for. Questions, comments, concerns?
Roughly how many deputies have you lost in the time that you've been here due to what you would say is salaries?
I don't have the numbers from 20 and 21 directly on me, but last year we lost 12 in there as well. I hired 17, and we lost 12. This year, I just wrote it on my board. By August 1st, we will have lost 7. And I've hired, give me a second while I go through the numbers in my head. 6, 7. Hired 7, we're losing 7. And I've got 4 in backgrounds right now. So we're kind of keeping pace with last year, where by August 1st, we will have 11 hired, and then we would have lost 7. So to give you an example, one of my deputies is resigning next week. And he, was full disclosure with us, but he's leaving for Casper PD. So, and as you guys can see from the sheet that I gave you, you can see the starting salary of Casper PD is compared to the Albany County Sheriff's Office. So a lot of the agencies that we lose people to are mainly Cheyenne and Casper. So, but that's the reality when they're here. We lose out on other recruits that come in that we don't necessarily get to hire right off the bat. And that's usually because of comparative salaries with either Laramie Police Department, sometimes the University of Wyoming Police Department, and the Highway Patrol. So.
If there's any other questions?
I don't think so.
So starting salary sheriff is 50,000 in the
50,000.
sheriff's department, and in the county it's 40,000, right?
Yes.
So there is a bit of a difference.
There is.
Correct. And so I just want that to be understood.
Yep.
Yeah, and we do make that determination early on in the person's career. And 6%, big numbers.
I do.
Right?
I do know it's a big number, and I wouldn't be asking you guys if I didn't think, like I said, if I didn't think it could be covered. It'd be one thing if we were returning no money to you guys, and then I was just up here saying, hey, please give my office another $220,000. That would be unrealistic as well. But like I said, the sheriff's office has done a pretty good job of being a financial steward, turning things in. We have a really good track record now, so you can see over the last 3 years since I've been here, of returning those funds as well. Some of that has helped prop up that salary reserve that we went over with earlier as well. So like I said, I know the ask might seem uncomfortable, But given the numbers that we have, it's definitely something that can be covered.
Yeah, and well, I believe that. But also, I think COVID is a two-edged sword, right? A lot of money came in.
Right.
That money is no longer coming in.
Exactly.
With property tax discussions in the legislature, this county is funded 35 to 38% with property taxes. If that becomes a reality, we could be losing quite a bit of funding
Right.
in the next year. And I just want people to understand what that means.
Right.
It means something completely different in Gillette, where it's less than 2% of their budget.
Right.
And I know you understand this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So these are the world we're living in. And I don't want anybody to hear in this room, whether they're a sheriff's deputy, lieutenant, or work in HR, or work in EMA, or any place. We don't value their ability to do their work and the stuff they do for the community. That's not what we're here for. We're here to try to make financially smart decisions. And I don't want it to be personal about that, right? Because I think we have a duty not only to the sheriff's office, obviously, but we have a duty to everybody else. And so,
I do know that property tax cut is looming. And then in the last budget session that there's a 5% cap on increases for property taxes. The 4%, excuse me,
That's already in effect.
4%, which is in effect for this year and I believe next year, correct, Tracy?
And then right now it's residential structures and it adds the land next year.
On there as well. So I know that some of the surpluses that we've had in years past will be reduced because there is that 4% cap on there as well. So the looming,
Sales tax bill.
the looming sales tax.
Decision that's actually the Secretary of State's office is checking right now, could
Yeah.
go on the ballot in November.
Yeah, could go on the ballot in November.
50%. That petition, that one.
Yes, I know that there's a petition there. I also know that at least this session, they're probably not going to take a look. They'll look at property taxes, but necessarily won't make that decision until the next budgetary cycle, which is in 2026 on there as well. So I know that's looming and I know that has some concerns for your decisions, but like I said, we already kind of know what that cap on the increases are going to be. And we'll be able, you guys will be able to factor that into numbers and taxes that are coming in. A ballot initiative is a ballot initiative, I'm not going to speculate on if that's going to go through or not. I do know it's an uphill battle though, for those. And so it makes it a tough hill to climb when it comes to those. So I don't know. I know for me, and I know you guys might have to look at it differently. It's something that I keep an eye on, but not necessarily something that I'm terribly too concerned with at that point. Like I said, we all have different constitutions when it comes on to taking some of those financial risks. And mine is different from everybody else's. I've said that time and time again. So, but I understand those considerations.
Commissioners, anything before any last minute? All right.
No, like I said, if anything comes up or you guys have any questions, I'll still be here throughout the meetings. Let me know.
Super.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Chairman, sir,
Yes, sir.
trying to use some of the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
It's appropriate if you allow a deputy to come up and brief comment in regards to your previous discussion.
Yeah, just one though. I mean,
Yes, sir.
yeah, please come up. You bet.
Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Rebecca Lubers. I'm a lifetime resident of Albany County, going on 32 years now. And I currently serve as a sheriff's deputy at the Albany County Sheriff's Office. I've worked for over a year in the jail, followed by almost 4.5 years here in the patrol division. I'm here to speak on behalf of my fellow deputies and my supervisors, and I thank you again for allowing me this opportunity to speak. You're here today to talk numbers, specifically pay raises. So I'd like to present to you some personal numbers of mine. 45. This is the number of pounds that my gear weighs in total. This gear includes a bulletproof vest that protects my vital organs in case of a gunshot. This is the gear that I'm required to wear each and every shift, 10 or more hours at a time while sitting in a car, sitting in a county commissioner's meeting, walking, running, and sometimes even hiking. 8, this is the total number of Christmases and Thanksgivings I have missed with my family in almost 6 years as a deputy. 3, the number of years I've worked weekend shifts while other county employees enjoyed their weekends off. 5.5, the number of years I have worked night shift from 5 p.m. to 3 a.m. 5, the number of times I have administered chest compressions to an individual as a family member or their friends have watched their loved ones take their final breath. $125, the average cost of 1 hour of therapy before my deductible is met. 12, the number of dead bodies that I can recall seeing off the top of my head, including car accidents, suicide, and natural causes. 2, the number of times I've administered Narcan to an overdosing individual. 15 is the number of months that I attended physical therapy weekly due to a shoulder injury that was sustained while in a physical altercation with an individual while on the job. 3, an average number of deputies on per shift, 3,500, the approximate square miles of this county that those deputies, 3 deputies at a time, are expected to protect. 1, the number of times a week I debate turning in this badge because I'm not sure the mental and emotional strain of this job is worth it. 7, the number of days in a week I feel overwhelmingly responsible to protect and serve this community that I love so much alongside the deputies who feel the same way that I do. 365, the number of days I thank God that I made it home safe to my family and that this vest didn't have to be used. These are my personal numbers as an almost 6-year deputy. And as you can imagine, many of them go up the longer an individual has served. The point of contention that I observed while watching the stream of the last meeting was that whatever is done for the sheriff's office needs to be done for every county employee. I hope that you consider these numbers while making your decision on granting us raises. And I hope these numbers show you why we are not like every other county employee and highlight the additional sacrifices and burdens we take on and take home. Again, I thank you for your time and allowing me to speak. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Anybody have questions?
Oh, but that was a very nice breakdown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any department head would like to, want to give us your take? Yep, Adam, please come on up.
That was emotional.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to break tension. It's the only way I can do it. So what I wanted to present, one, it's kind of two-sided. One, from a department standpoint, I don't have any hard feelings associated with a separate look, especially when you're evaluating race sets versus the Kohler conversation. So I just wanted to put that out there that it doesn't hold a distinction in my place. I understand departments are looked at from a race standpoint versus cost of living is a universal standpoint. And I hope that's being echoed there. And then 2, while you're trying to find the right number associated to the general Kohler raises that you're looking at or investigating, quick research associated with I guess really the only universal format I could find was the Social Security Commission, Social Security governance. Federal regs and federal people pretty stingent on what they want to do. And that was approved 2024 for a 3.2 Kohler raise. So anyone receiving security funds did see that raise in their retirement set, or at least what you would hope be seeing there. So I hope that number be considered maybe as our baseline starting place as it was seen at the federal level there. That's what I always grasp for when I'm trying to find numbers. I try not to make them up. I try to look at what else is going on in the industry. There's a lot of numbers associated, but that was something that was gentle and universal. So I wanted to bring that to your attention today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Adam. Denisa, please.
So I'll be the bad guy and please don't take offenses. I think all of our employees are fantastic. But based on the numbers that Tracy presented, the unknown factor of the sales tax the sales tax and the property tax, I would recommend that we hold off on raises for county employees until 2025 when we can reevaluate what that impact is going to be for the community. It's not that I don't value our employees and think that they deserve every bit. I just think we need to look into the future so we can avoid the 2017 recurrence that we had. So that's really all I have. I've given you some numbers that you asked for last time. I know there's concern about some of our employees reaching a higher salary than some of our elected officials. So that's another aspect to take into place as well. So.
Yeah. Hey, thank you for those numbers. I do appreciate it. And just for, you know, a little bit of background in Natrona County, the attorney makes $125,000 a year. Coroner makes $115,000 a year. Clerk makes $115,000 a year. Sheriff makes $125,000 a year. Commissioners make $35,000 a year. Our numbers are 92.5 for the clerk, 92.5 for the sheriff, 102.5 for the attorney, 45 for the coroner, and 30,000 for the commissioners. So there is a difference, right?
Absolutely.
So.
And unfortunately, other communities and other counties in the state have more resources than Albany County has. And that's the cold hard fact, as you've mentioned, right? We don't have those resources. So like I said before, this will not make me a popular HR director, but I think that we need to look so that we're not facing 2017 again, if property taxes and sales tax continue to hurt our county.
Well, thanks for that. I appreciate it. And I'm having a wide awake conversation shouldn't make you popular or unpopular. These are business decisions that we have to make at this dais, and nobody can see the future. So who knows? So we'll do the best we can. Anybody else? Kurt, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. You know, I understand that there's disparity in pay rates. I have probably the worst in my office is they have to have a professional license, and lawyers, as everyone knows, just costs more. I did some restructuring. As sheriff, I am focusing on retention. The labor pool for attorneys is very tight right now, particularly for getting people to government work that 8 to 5 or something like that. I don't know what happened, but people seem to be moving away from that sort of structure. But we do have benefits, so you don't have billable hours. There are benefits to being a government attorney. And I try to stress that, particularly with our interns, in case we should need to draw from that pool. Laramie is a good place in Wyoming to live. We have Colorado right down the street. We have mountains. It's a nice community. It's small. No commute should be over like 5 or 10 minutes unless you're in the county, like Miss Kayla. That can be a little longer, but other than that, this is a good place to live. Given that, I would echo Adam at 3%. I think with inflation, we need to stay competitive. I would really like not to have a 2021 situation where we're having to do massive raises to get back up, because that's much more dangerous for the budget and possibly losing people. I was here in 2017. That was not a good time, and I don't want a repeat of that. And I understand everyone's concerned, so am I. I don't know what the legislature is going to do. I can't predict the future, but I think the incremental is always the way to go. So if we have to draw back, maybe we can do it in a way it's not as painful. We can explain it. But I think showing the employees that we're at least trying to keep them up to pace with inflation so they can still buy groceries and pay rent and car payments, which are ever expanding, that we can try to keep things moving without putting ourselves in a bad budgetary situation. I know the state is doing very, very well. We had a presentation from some of our representatives of the Bar Association. I know Wyoming is doing well right now. So if there is a downfall, I would have some hope the state might step in and give us some more assistance. Of course, I have no power over that whatsoever. But as to a cost of living raise, then I think around 3% would be a good starting point or a good point to be. It shows our employees we value them and hopefully would help lead to higher retention rates, which is really what we're looking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kurt. Any questions for Kurt before he heads back?
Oh, sorry, I just left.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Nope. Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, please, David. Come on up.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I just want to echo what Kurt said. I agree with everything he said, so I can't say any better. So,
Thanks, sir. Okay. Anybody else? Commissioners, any thoughts? We don't I mean, we'd like to have the budget done today, but I mean, it does not have to be done today. When is our drop dead date for the budget?
June 28th, when you adopt it,
But we have to send the proposed budget to the paper tomorrow.
but it can
Yeah,
change
but
in
we can-
between there.
But anything
Whatever
may
the
change,
proposed.
yeah,
We can change all the way through.
the 28th. We can
Okay.
change on the
So it's not
28th.
locked in.
We're not locked in with the proposed budget. We just have to advertise a proposed budget, so.
Okay. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I have some thoughts.
Sure.
And it's to the sheriff's department. And these men and women have a very special place in my heart because every day their life's on the line. And they do a tremendous amount of traveling, and the breakdown that Sheriff's Deputy gave, I thought was very good. And I think if there's a continuing turnover all the time, it is not good for morale. And then you lose people that you learn to count on. And we need to support the sheriff's department at absolutely the highest rate we possibly can, because their job is totally different than any other job in the county. And not to belittle anybody else's job, because lots of people work lots of hours, work really hard. But the sheriff, and they know what's in that job when they come into it, but it's still very, very hard job, often very hard physically, but the mental part that is in a sheriff's deputy's daily activities is really tough. And I would like to see them funded at the full 6.5%, coming back to what's returned from the sheriff's office back to the county. I have, as of today's, Deputy Luber's comments were very sobering. And I find it difficult not to listen very seriously to those statistics she gave us. I'd like to say that everybody deserves the same raise, but I honestly, my heart don't believe that anymore. I agree with Terry that, Commissioner Jones, that they should be considered separately. Now, I don't know if I can support the full 6.5, but I think they need more than what we're considering for the other employees. I appreciate Adam's statement that, we need to look at this and not take it personally and have any qualms about that, because quite honestly, I would not want to be a deputy. And I appreciate everything they do. So my thought has changed from previous thinking in the last 3 years. I really feel that we need to consider the sheriff's office in a different way. And I'm sorry if that bothers the rest of you, but that's how I strongly believe. And I agree with Terry, but I'm not sure. Can we look at other numbers of what would, you gave us 6%, you gave us some other numbers. Are you believing, Sheriff, that 6.5 is the lowest you can go and feel like you can retain your people? Or are you willing to look at 5%? Are you willing to look at 5.5?
You're asking me a really, really tough question here. I think for the sheriff's office, and then the numbers that I gave, that 6.5% is a fairly solid number. I also gave you those other numbers though for you guys' consideration, knowing that, like I said, I'm not the one that makes that decision. I am asking for 6.5%. I will still continue to ask for 6.5%. If you guys decide to fund at 6.5%, we're going to be more than grateful. If you guys decide to fund lower than 6.5%, I'm going to disagree with your decision, but we will respect it going forward. And so and that's part of the reason why we gave you those other numbers for your consideration as well. So like I said, there is I believe a 5, 4. I think we did it by 0.5%. So I think that's what's in the electronic folder that we had submitted a couple months ago. But the printouts, I think, are whole percentages down to 3.5%. So.
Okay, thank you.
Sheriff, if you please would state,
Sure.
how many people have you lost to other Albany County agencies in the past year or two?
Let's see. Other Albany County agencies?
Yeah, so the Laramie Police Department.
So we usually lose, usually about 2 to 3 out of every 6. But we lose those in the recruitment process, not necessarily the retention process. So, when we're bringing people in and we have them test and they interview and stuff, that's usually where we will lose more people to LPD, or the Wyoming Highway Patrol. So.
Okay. All right, thank you.
It's other state agencies that when we have people hire on, then we lose them to. So majority are the, like I said, the surrounding counties, but we've had other counties as well. So we've lost deputies to Jackson PD, Lincoln County Sheriff's Office, Laramie County Sheriff's Office, Cheyenne PD, Casper PD. Douglas, thank you. Sorry, I was trying to remember going through the names in there. So Douglas PD, as well. Crook County Sheriff's Office. Those are the state agencies. So like I said, it varies quite a bit. So we don't necessarily get a whole lot of deputies from other agencies, but we do get some. So we've gotten them from Highway Patrol, Carbon County, Wyoming Department of Corrections, Sweetwater County Sheriff's Office, Riverton PD, Fremont County Sheriff's Office, Powell PD. So.
And in your office, is there forced overtime? Like, is there a certain amount of overtime that a person has to sign on for, or can a person who wants to work more make more?
Both. We don't necessarily have forced overtime, at least on the patrol side, directly to a lack of staffing. That's usually because of a situation where we have forced overtime. So call runs long, somebody gets called out, those types of things. So somebody gets injured and then we have to cover. In the jail, usually there is some forced overtime in there mainly due to circumstances, sometimes due to staffing. And that's usually for medical transports, prisoner transports, court security. If we have a jury trial in one of the courts that goes 1 week, 2 weeks, I have to pull from somewhere else to cover that. And so there's reductions in services in other areas. And so it's part of the balancing act that we have day to day in the sheriff's office of trying to make sure that we have the most coverage, maximizing the coverage in the most important areas. So.
Thanks. I just was trying to understand.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Every piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That's all I have. Anybody else for the sheriff?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna make one more final. Yes. Because I'm the only commissioner that lives in the county. You guys are my law enforcement, my help when I need help. And I get to know you better than the police department, which is wonderful. And I can't thank you enough for the professional way that you handle everything I've ever had to deal with. And I do believe that you all deserve the 6.5% raise.
I can speak for not only the deputies here, but the deputies that weren't able to attend as well. They appreciate your comments. They really do.
Well, I guess I also live in the county, because that's why I can sit here. And if I didn't, I wouldn't. And I do understand you live in the unincorporated piece of the county, but I do live in the incorporated piece of the county. 6.5% is a huge number. I have a disagreement. I think everybody needs better pay. I don't want this to be the Albany County Department of the Sheriff's Office and then everybody else. I think morale is a very difficult thing. Then gender, and then once you lose it, you lose it. And I've seen people, and I'm not gonna. It's tough to be in the elections, right? I've seen it. It's not the same. Not the same. I mean, I'm not equated, but it does. It's tough. 6.5, if given to the entire county, would be 17% or so of our reserves. That's not a sustainable number. 6.5%, when you add 1.8% from next year's retirement, if we were to take that all of that, would be another 36,000 in addition to whatever we had before. So the numbers compound. And I'm just uncomfortable with that number. I don't think that's sustainable. I don't think it's sustainable for your office. I don't think it's sustainable for the rest of the county. And I perfectly honest with you, I do not feel like I should raise one office above the other office, because then when do I start evaluating the difference between the clerk and the treasurer's office, or between the HR and EMA? I don't think I'm able to do that. And I think that's a dangerous world to get into. So I'm not inclined to give anything different to the sheriff's office that I would get to the county employees. And it looks like you have something to say. So
Yeah, I was about to say that's where we will have a disagreement, and I understand where you're coming from, because it is much easier, and I can definitely put myself in your shoes, and having and understanding that view where it's much easier to evaluate everybody on kind of the same conditions. Unfortunately, that's not the reality of it, and unfortunately, that is one of the tougher decisions that you guys are going to have to make as elected officials, as elected commissioners. And I know that not what I'm asking you today is not necessarily just numbers based, but this is what I'm asking you to do, is to evaluate those offices differently. Because at the end of the day, the reality is every office is different. So I understand 100% your concern. I really do. But it is one of the burdens of your office that you're going to have to take into consideration.
Yep, totally understand. And then trying to take that into consideration. And also trying to take into the consideration financial health of this entire county, which 2017 isn't so long ago.
Right.
When people lost jobs, and that is a scary place to be. And so I'll have to tell you, 6.5% is off the table for me for the entire county. But I'm just one vote here.
Right.
Now, are there other ways to do this? Perhaps,
Yeah.
right? Perhaps there's a bonus mechanisms, perhaps something that doesn't compound every year, that gets you somewhere along that line. But I don't know that at the same time that I'm asked to bring people up to the same retirement investment in each office, that at the very same time, they're saying, well, now bring us up to the same retirement contribution, but we want a different salary. Those seem to be dissimilar thoughts in my mind and dissonant in my mind. And so
They are the two different asks that I made.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think I've been pretty transparent
Yep.
with that as well, that those are two different asks. They're not necessarily combined. It seems like they're combined today because we asked for them at the same time. But like I said, they are two different, so, separate situations that you guys have to take under consideration. And the last thing that I just want to reiterate as well, and I can't reiterate it enough. Like I said, I've been elected sheriff of the Albany County Sheriff's Office. I am not in charge of every other elected official. I am in charge of solely the sheriff's office. And so our ask does not, for lack of the better words that I have, the ask that I have is specific to the sheriff's office. It is not specific to every other office in there. I do agree with you that a 6.5% across the board for the entire county is unsustainable. And that's why we did not ask for that. So like I said, please, when you guys are taking this under consideration, I can't harp on it enough that the things that I'm asking for are specific to my office and my office specifically.
Yeah, and I totally expect you to do that, right? That is your position, and I expect everybody else who wants to do that to have the same fidelity to their people in their offices. So you don't have to apologize for that, right? That's your job, I think, as I see it. My job is a little bit different.
It is.
And so how do we do this? I have to tell you, in an open forum makes it very uncomfortable, uneasy to be here, but it's the only way to do it. I want people to understand.
It was never going to be comfortable.
No.
It's uncomfortable for everybody.
Yeah.
That's probably the one thing that we all have in common here.
Yeah, but I think it's better when people can hear from you and from all the different elected officials and deputy louvers and then the commissioners say, hey, this is where we're coming. And so that there's an understanding, at least whatever passes, and people can understand where the positions were from without it being personal. That's my whole goal, is to not be personal. It shouldn't be. I really do appreciate the work that your office does, but I do really appreciate the offices of the assessor. And I really do appreciate what Anthony does and the maintenance folks. And so how to do that, I don't know. We'll figure it out, and then we'll let you know. But I do appreciate it. And if there are any other department and elected officials who'd like to speak, that would be great, because a broader set of solutions would always be a better set of solutions from which to pick from. So thank you, Sheriff. I appreciate it. Yeah, Anthony, please.
I just wanted to echo what Anissa said. I think maybe we should play it safe until we figure out what's going to be happening in the next year. But on that same token, listening to the sheriff speak and Commissioner Sue's revelation, if you will, I do think maybe the sheriff's department should be considered not separate, but differently than the rest of the county. Stressed out from a tough day at the office and being thankful that you didn't get killed today is two very big different things. So I don't know, the 6.5, whatever, but I do think maybe the sheriff's office should be looked at a little bit different than the rest of the county. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thanks, Chelsea.
Yes. I echo Anthony and Adam. I would take no issues with you guys considering the sheriff separate from all of the other county offices. I'm married to a first responder and it's hard. It's different. I have stress. I work long hours. It's way different than my husband's stress. And the mental health part, it affects the family too. And it's expensive. My office would appreciate anything. We do not expect 6.5. That's all.
Thank you, Chelsea.
I mean, I can get up and echo the same thing. I mean, I can go stand up there. I think the biggest thing for me too is that, my office goes into budget every year knowing that whatever we get, we're thankful for. I'm not married to a first responder. But by God, I wouldn't want to be one. And I thank God that you guys are there. And I think they do need to be considered separate.
Thank you. Because you want him to show up at your
I
house.
do.
I will also echo. And I am married to a first responder, so I do believe that they are a different set of people. They're very special people that do a job that most of us would not want to do. So I think that when considering raises or advancements, I think it's very important to put them in a different category. And same as Chelsea said, my office is happy with what we're given, and they know they're appreciated with anything. And I think that the sheriff's office needs to be compensated.
Thank you, Stacy.
Yes, please. Come on up, Sally.
Apologize, I wasn't planning on speaking. But I can attest firsthand to what some of these deputies have seen over the years. I arguably see some of the worst things they probably have to. There's got to be a happy medium. I think I can see where the 6.5% is probably not sustainable in the long run, but considering them separate than everybody else, I think is an important thing that needs to be done. My dad was a first responder. I have family members that are first responders, and they take a lot on their shoulders, and sometimes they don't know how to deal with it. And I think it's important to retain the people who are willing to do that. My office is teeny tiny and works on a different pay scale than everybody else, but I think that it is important to recognize that the people who are willing to do some of the dirty work get compensated properly.
The heartbreaking work.
Exactly. We see a lot of horrible, awful things. And yes, it is part of our job descriptions. It's not a surprise that this is some of the stuff we have to see, but that doesn't make it any easier or less impactful when it does have to happen. So.
Thank you. Thanks, Sally.
I'll throw my ditto in.
Okay, all right.
But I too live in the county, and they have responded to my house. When you show up after your son's been in a four-wheeler accident, and they said the helicopter's on the way, and Sheriff O'Malley's there. Rob Debris was still alive back in that day, and it looked more like a crime scene than an accident. I mean, I was in. So. Without them, who knows how long my kid would have been there. So.
They're very important.
Yep.
So you feel it's all right to consider them separate from other county employees?
Yeah, I mean, they do put their lives on the line for all of us, for all of our betterment. And those of us that live in the county, you know, city PD isn't going to come out to see us. But, you know, for my office, I mean, and we don't know when that angry customer's coming in our door either. I've had my staff in my office crying several times because of the things that people say. I mean, we take our own chances too, not the same level of chances by no means. Sometimes it'd be nice to have a bulletproof vest against every word.
Yeah, they're a little harder to.
Yeah. And sometimes people in the public make it very personal to my staff. And I'm sure Kayla gets that too, especially in elections and things like that. But one of the things I like to do with my staff, and I don't know if anybody else does it with theirs, but I also like to present annually my employees' entire compensation package. So I show them with all the benefits they choose to take, including the retirement, health insurance. If they take the HSA, they do the match with the deferred comp. So that makes my starting salary person with full benefits, $60,000 with all the benefits on top of their actual pay of $40,000. I like to put that out there because sometimes people forget that when the commissioner picks you pick up our retirement, that can be $6,200 a year. Granted, you don't see that in your paycheck every month, but it is, you know, if you stick around long enough, you're gonna get that. It comes back to you. So
Because then a lot in the private sector, you don't get that.
exactly. In the private sector, when I was in the private sector, I don't even think I got retirement in most of my jobs.
Let
You know?
alone insurance.
Yeah, and the health insurance, if you're a full family, that's 2,700 almost a month that the commission pays towards that.
Mhm.
Which you'd have to buy in the marketplace on your own if you didn't, but I think also the priorities of the workforce have changed a little bit.
Yeah.
With the younger generation. They're not necessarily wanting that retirement or the health insurance. They want the immediate paycheck. They want to move up the ladder. They want time off. And you got to strike that balance for all of their, I mean, everybody has that younger generation, I think, to deal with. And that's not, I shouldn't generalize because I got some younger people that work their tail off and do all the things and don't ask for a lot. So that's my, that's probably Nichols' work.
Yeah. Well, thank you for
That's
that.
good, Tracy.
And so I think there are ways to do this, and I really do think that when a firefighter is out on a fire, they risk their lives. But there is no way, if we don't have some sort of hazard pay, to remunerate that when Kate is in there working it. And so although the sheriffs bear the brunt of that risk, totally get it. There are other people here that bear it too. And so is there a way to create some sort of hazard pay in addition, so that it is not $700,000 that we're going to pay this year and $700,000 next year at a minimum, and $700,000 the following year. I just can't get there. I just really cannot get there because the numbers just don't make sense to me at all. But I got one vote, and whatever the priority of this commission is, I certainly will live with it. So can we handle the first of the law enforcement asks, the retirement, the 0.9%? Anybody have a problem with the 0.9%?
So in total, it's gonna be 1.8. So it's going up 0.9 for the employee side and the employer, which we already pay more than the employer. So just to clarify, you would take it from, if you took all of it, it would take it up to, our portion being 15.27%.
The first year?
And their subsequent following.
And then we
Right,
deal with
0.8.
the next years later.
Yeah, I guess I misunderstood that. Was the total was 0.9% is what I thought was for the first
That's
year.
just for one. Each side of it is 0.9 on each
Each
side.
side. Okay.
The employer.
It's, so will the following year be 1.8% on each side, or will it be
No,
0.9
it's
on each
0.9
side?
Each side, each year.
Okay. So then that,
It was confusing.
yeah, so that would make us law enforcement officers at 15.19% for the counties.
If you matched the public, if you want to take the full round, it would be 15.27.
Right, so we'd be
Just the
0.08% funding the retirement of the sheriff's office above the non law enforcement officers. So what is your pleasure? And that number with any raises, with the 6.5% raise, it's 53,000 with no raise. And if I remember, if I have this number correctly, it would be 60,000 with a 6% raise. So it would be something a little bit more with 6.5% raise.
And the total would be?
Would you like the total of 6.5? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, please.
With the full retirement,
Yes.
that will be a total of 214,000.
Retirement and
And 6.
6.5%.
Yeah.
Amanda, I'm looking at sheriff's numbers here, and with just the raises, it's 212, 708, and then I'm guessing another.
There was a couple little numbers in there that I weren't hooked up in her sheet right.
Okay,
I
Okay.
just did a couple numbers.
Could you get the breakdown of what the salary then would be for 6.5 versus, and then what would the retirement be for the 6.5? Separate?
Oh, like, if we didn't do any of the retirement?
No, what would the salary be for 6.5? Is 212,708.84, is that the correct number?
Yeah, that's what.
213, 826, 31.
If you want that
If you want the full retirement and the 6.5.
Yes.
213.
213, 826.
I think what Pete's asking is
Yeah.
how much is how much of that 214
Is salary
overall
and how
is
much-
salary and how much is
Oh.
retirement?
The 212,708 is salary, right?
And then you add 60 onto that.
So if you want them separate, I still have to have some kind of retirement amount. So did you want me to take it?
Yeah, that,
Yes.
The
but
full
if he
amount.
wants it separate-
He just wants to know what the retirement amount is increase and what the salary amount increase is.
But what do you want me to take the retirement back to?
Amanda,
1.8.
I wonder if we did our numbers, if we included benefits into our numbers. I thought that we did not.
There were some in there, but they were old numbers. So I don't, so.
What are they
I need a
getting right
start,
now?
I need a starting point.
So
For-
what would a 6.5% salary, what would be the number that amount to the county budget? How much would that be? For the sheriff's office?
So, but which amount of,
I don't think you're articulating your question.
I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not a wordy person.
I know that, when that happens,
Yeah.
it's so hard.
I think in order to calculate that total package, Amanda needs to know what your directive would be for the retirement because it all
1.8
factors
and then
in.
6.5%.
And then once she gets that total, she can.
So
split the
take,
two.
okay.
Take
so-
the full amount,
Okay.
1.8 and 6.5%, the full amount that the sheriff's office has asked for.
So that's the full amount of the 6.5 plus the full retirement is that 214 number. Okay, just rounding up a couple $100. If you take like just the retirement part, if you take that on, just the retirement is only like $2,500.
Okay,
Seems
super. I guess was operating with different numbers. I thought it was gonna be 272, ish, but, okay.
That's just sworn officers.
That's not your office staff, cooks,
Mhm.
that is just your sworn deputies.
For you guys' consideration, just to let you know that our non-sworn staff are not on the law enforcement retirement.
Yeah.
They're on the county retirement.
Yeah,
But I guess my question is, Sheriff, are you asking for 6.5% increase on your office staff as well?
Yes.
And I don't have that in. I just
That's
have the
not in
sworn.
yeah, I have in this, it's sheriff's numbers here, 18.5, 55, 45, 6.5%
Yeah,
raise
his-
on their non-sworn staff.
These spreadsheets that have all employees, but the retirement and the workers' comp numbers were not.
Accurate.
Yeah, they were a little low.
Okay. So I guess commissioners, let's just handle the less amount of money first, the retirement fund. Do you want to do the 1.8%, which brings up the law enforcement officers to 15.27% and the non-law enforcement's 15.19%? Or do you want to make them even, or do you want to do something different than with both of them?
Sorry, it is the 52,000, sorry. My other spreadsheet, the main one had already done the bump from the 13.47 to the 15.19, but either way, it's gonna have to increase a little bit. So the difference between the 15.19 and the 15.27, because you had already considered raising it up, that's the 2,500.
Okay.
Just wanted to clarify that.
And boy, it's gonna be, I kind of want to make everybody 50.27 is what I want to do. But yeah, I know you don't have those numbers and that it's probably like, I don't know, 10 grand or something. I don't know what the number is, but
Do that.
yeah.
Figure that if you want.
Is there any statutorily that we cannot do that?
I don't think so.
Okay. That's my opening offer, you guys, whatever you want to do.
Nope, yeah, sounds okay.
Bring everybody up to 15.27% on the retirement, so that the sheriff's office would have that 1.8 fully funded by the county. Guys, let me know when you're ready and we'll move on to the next piece of it.
Sorry, I don't think there was a minute.
No, you're fine. You're fine. But at the end of this, how much time do you need for the budget?
Not too.
Okay, okay.
We don't have any scheduled public hearings, so
Right.
should look at Kurt. I think if we went past the 6, we'd be okay. We don't have any public hearings scheduled, so if we went past 6 in this portion of it and started the meeting late, I think it'd probably be okay.
Okay.
So you just want to know the impact on the non.
Yeah, it's not a very big amount. I'm not really that interested in it, but you,
It'll be around $5,000.
yeah, okay, super.
So is that what you'd like to propose then for?
Yep,
Yes.
I think all 3 of us would like to do that.
So all county employees at the
15.27%. Yeah. Okay, now to the other, I feel 3%, 3.5% top number for me is a reasonable amount. I'd be interested, in hazard pay, discussions, because I think there is that part of the job, but I think there is that part of the job somewhere else too. And I do not want to not understand that in our salaries. So that's our, so 300,000, 3%, as I wrote it down last time. Well, 4% is 414,000. That's what about 110, 3.5% would be 385-ish for the entire county. But I think you all probably have a different idea about that. So.
Yeah, Amanda, give us a 3.5, not across the board, limit, removing the sheriff office.
And do you also want the sworn deputies
Non-sworn.
or non-sworn personnel in the sheriff's office to be at 3.5%? Or do you want them to be at something different?
It can be at 3.5.
Okay.
So we want across the board, 3.5 to all budgets.
Without the sheriff, without the score.
So Kara's with the be $202,220.54.
And then the additional 3% on the sheriff's budget would be,
The three,
yeah, on just the sworn officers.
if you add that in, it takes it up to $316.96.
So it'd be an additional 114, give or take a few bucks.
Commissioners,
Yeah,
do you mind if I say something just really quickly?
please come on up. You bet.
Sorry, I didn't speak earlier. I was trying not to cough, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to echo the majority of the other department heads in, I feel that the sheriff's office deserves to be paid differently. I know you mentioned our office and we shouldn't be compared on the same scale. They put their lives on the line daily.
Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Kate.
Come on.
Yeah.
I'll just
Yeah.
say, because I also am gonna slide this in before I go to swim lessons. I totally agree. I get the fact that they put their lives on their line and what they have to deal with. None of this actually affects me or my office, I don't think. So, but I do agree with the sheriff's office getting that extra. So, but I'm gonna go also excuse myself. We've got swim lessons. Make sure we're safe in the water. So,
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, have a great night. Sorry.
So commissioners, any thoughts?
I still want the sheriff's at 6.5%. Just the sworn, correct. I can do that.
Is it 6.5% for the sheriff's? Okay. Yeah, that has a majority of the commission. That, so 6.5% for the sheriff's office. And 3.5% for everybody else.
It takes it to 413,701.
413,701.
413.
Yeah. Okay. I'm struck, I have to tell you, with the decency of the people in this room. Too often, people will not and will be self-interested in that. So I am impressed with those of you who ask for something different than people who work alongside you. I hope Sheriff's Office will recognize that. I think that's a remarkable thing. You don't see that very often. And so I congratulate all of you who did that. No new person to budgeting, and this will be the first time in my life I will have seen that, quite honestly. And so no fool like an old fool. So it's a good chance to see that and to be reinvigorated with the spirit of people. You know, I think to the sheriff's office, I hope you'll return the favor on occasion. And I know you do on a daily basis, but yeah, I'm struck. So thank you. That's a really nice way to start a commission meeting with kindness, decency, and generosity.
This is not the first time that I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it in the past, and the elected officials and department heads many times over the years have given and taken, and they're incredible people. We are so lucky in Albany County to have such wonderful people all across the board. And I thank you very much for that.
Can I get a point of clarification?
Sure, please.
Okay, so just so that we can do our proposed budget, so 3.5%. We can't really call it a COLA because our grants,
It's
don't allow it as a
not
COLA.
yeah.
We can only, a 3.5% increase to your salary line item or to your employees that you have in your office. So I guess here's my,
Just be to your salary line.
to your salary line. So here's my first question. Are department heads included in the 3.5% increase?
That's a good question.
I would say no. I mean, I love them, but the people that need the money the most are down below them.
What we did with not too long ago, right? Department head salaries. They were included last time.
Yes.
Okay.
Keep and mull that one over for a minute. The
Okay.
next question is, the people, so there were departments that asked for increases in some of their employees already that are built into the budget. Are those employees getting an increase plus the 3.5%?
Well, it's not specific to employees, it's just the budget total.
Correct, so.
Okay, so yes, they
can
are
decide
then.
what they
Okay.
want to do. with
Okay,
that.
I just want to make sure, because
It gets
if I don't get
confusing.
these questions out now, I won't be able to
Do you
do.
wanna
a good-
Well, that's a
Original
wonderful question
totals
because
Or the after totals?
Yeah, do you want it on your
That's
before,
what we
total?
did.
So we can, yeah, that's a good idea, Amanda. Do we look at it from your budget from last year and go 3.5% on top of that? Or do you go from your new number, 3.5 on top of that? Because that would include those increases. If we did it prior to increases, it would be where everybody is today.
It would be 3% on top of where everybody is today.
Today with no increases starting July 1st, if that makes sense.
so you would remove the salary from each budget.
Amanda would just take it from actuals right now, like
Okay.
where, what the budget totals were from last year, basically.
So let's play a game here so I can
Just
understand.
pretend. So
Yeah.
just say I have somebody, say Amanda, I'm gonna give her a 3% raise because I feel like that's where she needs to be.
And it was in your budget.
And I asked for it in my budget for
Okay.
this next fiscal year.
Okay.
And then if I go off of those numbers, she's actually getting a 6.5% increase.
Yeah.
So do we want to go off current numbers or off new numbers is what I'm asking.
Current numbers for me.
Yeah.
I think we have that's a fraught world if we don't do current numbers, right? We'll just have budget salary increases and then we'll,
Yeah.
yeah. So. Terry, you all right with
I'm
that?
fine.
Okay. So I guess removing all those.
We'll just, Amanda will know what numbers. to go off.
Super. Okay.
Good, because he doesn't.
Thank you.
I just don't touch. her
That's a great
spreadsheet.
question and thank you for asking.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that we're getting true numbers.
Yeah.
And what we will do when Amanda does that, we will make sure we'll let you know when we're done, go in and check your spreadsheet, so.
Thank you.
And then, so department heads would be the next question.
Any thoughts about department heads
So were included last year.
Correct.
2 years ago?
Last year.
Last year also?
Last year.
Okay.
And it's just putting money in the budget. You guys would be the ones that have to assign it.
Okay.
But point of clarification, though, all of the department heads got an increase last year.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know what increase, but they did. You guys signed the salary authorization forms, so.
Yes.
I think we can hold,
Yeah.
not give any. Okay.
I guess. Yes, please, Adam.
Is that because of our distinction in essentially classification associated with our elected counterparts?
Well, in my
Why we're
mind,
not seeing that?
So in my mind, that would be part of it. And also the fact that last year, there were fairly sizable raises in many department heads, if not 2 years ago.
Sure.
And I need more data, quite honestly. I'm gonna have to do another salary survey to feel comfortable, where we are, going forward with, that. To be perfectly honest with you. And I suspect your salary survey will come out much more than what you're making right now. I suspect it.
I guess I'm just, from a department head standpoint, I guess I don't understand the distinction set versus the standard employee. The only distinction that we know of is legislatively that elects can't see that based on their 4-year cycle. Right. And other counties have elected to take step cycles, whether or not that is legal. I don't know. I talked to legal about that in some form, but there are other counties that chose to do that and see an increase and write that into their salary sets for their elects.
You can do that in the resolution, but it has to be spelled out in the resolution that you can get increases every year for 4 years, but it has to be in the resolution that it's approved every 4 years.
Okay.
So you can't do it.
So you
mid.
can't do it in
You
between.
can't do it mid.
Yeah, and I get that. And so you guys negotiate, had nothing to do with department heads.
No.
We weren't included. There is no voice there for us in any regards because it doesn't affect us in any manner. But because there's a limiting factor, now we get help back, I guess. And I do agree, Terry, that people below see things, but I also believe the groceries for a department head is just as expensive as
It
those
is,
below.
but the percentage is vastly different.
Correct. But I think the responsibilities and the workloads
Right.
pull in the
But
same
if you're
manner
trying
set
to put
too.
groceries on the table.
Yeah.
Huge difference. Huge difference.
Well, it's the same for somebody that makes 40 as it is for somebody that makes 90.
Correct.
Mhm.
Big
Yeah.
groceries are.
Yeah.
The cost of groceries.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Nothing 3.5%, something in between for department heads. That's where we're at. So.
I'm not trying to be the bad guy. I just have to have
No,
numbers.
No, I know, yeah,
I-
no, that's okay.
This is
Yeah.
the work.
Amanda, can you give us any figures for like 1.5%?
With department heads.
Just department heads.
Okay.
Tracy and Amanda are always so amazing.
I'm telling you, this one has spreadsheets.
I just like it.
And just the 1.5 for the 5 department heads would be around $1,075.94.
I could do that.
And then we won't be able to revisit electeds until 2026. Yeah, so next year we can revisit it? Is that fiscal year 2026 or is it fiscal year
It's, so it's the
27?
beginning, it'll be in 2026 before we are all up for office is when it is.
Takes
Yeah.
effect 27.
Yeah.
So it takes effect 27, so.
So it will be, I think it has to be approved by June
1st.
1st, the first meeting in June of 2026 of every new cycle.
Okay.
Amanda, give me that again, 1.5% for the 5 department heads.
No, $8,075.
Okay. 90%.
Terry likes the change.
Are you all right with that?
I,
I am too. Okay,
So 1.5% on department heads,
Yep.
3.5% on all county offices with the budgets prior to, yeah, with the totals. 6.5% on sworn law enforcement deputies. Retirement will be at 15.227% on all county employees.
correct.
Okay.
great.
All excludes, or the retirement.
Grant budgets won't increase. Yes. Grant budgets would be,
Grants are not included in the, what, 3.5?
Again, it's not, can't be a COLA, it's just an increase to the salary line items
Right.
for clarification.
so you will just have money in your budget to do as you wish with your employees.
And I guess just the commissioners should be able to give a little direction, and whether it's followed or not, I think that's a really important piece of this. How would you like that 3.5 spent? Would you like it across the board? What, would you like more flexibility for the department, for the elected officials? Because we can't dictate to you, Kayla, or Tracy, nor any of you, Chelsea.
I think it's at the discretion.
Yeah,
I can see the scribble mark.
Yeah.
So like, I was gonna change the job title of one of my employees. I don't know what that percentage increase was.
Well, did you ask for it in your budget?
yeah.
She did.
I did.
And I think you guys approved that. Well,
So that'd be
Yeah.
your
But so I
discretion,
wouldn't,
Chelsea.
I wouldn't intend on changing her job title, giving the increase and then adding a 3.5 on top of it. That's not my intention
Okay.
Okay,
with
yeah.
that specific employee.
Is
But I
that,
would with everyone else.
okay, is that the same for everybody who's asked for employee rates in their budget, that they did not intend, that they wanted that to be the salary going for fiscal year 25? Or did they anticipate something different? I just want to have the oranges
I
be
didn't
the
ask for any,
oranges.
so you'd have to ask the people that asked for the increases. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Kate, you asked.
Yeah.
For our office, we wouldn't expect a raise on top of what we asked for.
Okay,
And Chelsea, you wouldn't just on the one employee? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, so
Increase
the
on
one that
top.
I was changing.
You would just
off
want to
of.
change it to that new and just leave it at that?
Yeah, and I asked for a new employee, I would still start them at the 40, I wouldn't start them at the 40
The upper.
plus 3.
Okay.
Gotcha, that makes sense. Yep.
okay. And I guess, I don't know who else asked for that,
Yeah.
but did Rob ask for it?
No, it's just the new
Um,
employee.
well, Randy, but that person.
She already put it in.
That's 25.
I think that was it on, yeah, asks, so we should be good then. And Amanda wrote those down. Didn't you?
Did we have numbers for the supervising position, so Anthony's position, where we're at, as far as the salary numbers of a couple of years ago? Anissa, could you give me those numbers? You don't have to if you don't have them.
I don't have them off the top of my head.
Okay,
What did you ask?
so what were the salary ranges for Anthony's position here? Particularly impressed with the work. Not that I'm not done with everybody, but
Can I ask too, while Amanda's pulling those up, so
Yeah.
on the agenda we have for the part-time custodial position, do you have that in your budget right now? You don't, do you? So you have to work that into your budget tonight, okay.
Right.
And that was, what, do you remember what that dollar amount was?
I didn't bring it down with me.
I got it.
I have to really
We can. pull
I'll
that.
have it
I'll just-
tonight.
Okay, perfect. I just,
I'll
because
have
I
it
want to
when I
remember
present
that
it
we
to
can
the
put
commissioners.
that.
Grab that paper.
Because if you guys approve that tonight, we'll have to put that into his budget so that.
It was
Budget for
less
next
than
year.
30.
okay. And we don't have to make this happen in the next 8 minutes, so we can probably put a special session of the board to finalize this budget, so you guys aren't just,
So is what we will do is we'll get numbers. We'll advertise the proposed budget with all of these numbers that you guys have, and then we will sit and work our spreadsheets, and then I can send out another OneDrive to you all with all the updated numbers, if that's helpful before the 28th. And if you would like to meet before that, we definitely can set something if you would like.
Or would you, Sue, would you like to meet before with all the numbers?
I think so, just in case we have
I
any
would-
other
I would actually think it would be
questions
helpful
and
too.
make sure that we got it all right.
And then Tracy could maybe talk about the transfers and stuff
After I have all the numbers.
after we have all the
Yeah.
numbers. Then it would maybe be helpful. Do you guys want to look at your schedule?
So after the 20th, because you kind of expect Pilt to come in after the 20th, is that what?
Well,
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I am very hopeful that
Mike. So it's gonna have to, so we have to advertise the budget. And we'll have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. And we have the public hearing on the 28th and approving the budget, so. Whatever your guys is. Tracy's out on Monday, so Tuesday, Wednesday.
Wednesday I've got all day, but I
have
have
one.
Tuesday all day too.
Yeah, might as well, Wednesday.
So we have a health insurance management team at 9, is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's what I have. So
Uh,
after that, at 11,
Yeah, 11 would be good, I think.
we have a status meeting. Tracy, do you think we could move that?
would you want it before 9 then?
I mean,
8?
we could do it at 8, and then if for some reason our meeting got pushed back a little bit, our health insurance, I don't know that that would be the end of the world.
Or just the status meetings are to get on the calendar.
I would say, so we could do 8 o'clock on Wednesday?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna put it on here.
I assume we're moving to health insurance management team or just do that prior to.
We'll just do from 8 until
Yeah, I can't imagine this is gonna take.
more than an hour,
More
but if
than
it
an hour,
does, I
yes.
think
I wouldn't think
all
so.
of us will be in here, so
Sean and Michelle are coming down, but I'm sure they're happy to wait.
maybe we just,
Yeah,
you don't have any good data either.
That might be handy too, just because of the increase.
I know.
So them, it's not, yeah, probably more likely happening, correct?
yeah. And could you guys, would you be able to give us an idea of those increases? What is the top number of health insurance increases as they come to the budget, to the board?
I'll leave it to the chair of that board.
You don't have to do it now, but I mean, at some point, just send us that number because I think that number has to be known.
Yeah.
By us, for sure. It'll be known by everybody at some point, but
Probably will know that.
yeah.
Can we go over 1% really quick? Because I might have a little homework for you.
Shoot, sure, please.
Okay. Kayla, are you a co-host?
I am.
Can you? pull up
Tracy
that-
can pull it up.
She doesn't have access to
Oh.
the grant spread.
I don't know if I do on this one either.
So after we met a couple weeks ago, we got some more information from the city. And I really like what they've done with their 1%. 1%. 1% can you
I'll never be.
give me 1% for me?
There you go.
You call it.
Which one? Fiscal year 25, maybe?
Can they come in one sheet?
Yeah, one sheet. No.
Location.
It's this.
Okay, so the city makes a spreadsheet and they give every council member their bottom line budget to then, but to allocate to every organization that requests 1% funding. I've met with Tracy, Kayla, Amanda, me. We all really like this idea because then it comes back and it saves you guys in the end too, if there's ever any questions on it. What the city does is, so each council member then allocates the bottom line number to everybody and then we average them out. Or they average them out and then that's what they get rounded up to the nearest dollar. They always round up. I reached out to the city to ask them, okay, how do you guys find what bottom number that is? Well, they didn't really have a nice clear cut answer for me. So, what I want to propose with you guys, and I know it's a short amount of time, but I think you guys could do this by next Wednesday, is going about it the same way. However, I would like to set we all met, we talked about $250,000 as your bottom line number of what you'll be giving to 1%. This does not include airport. This does not include library. Or Fair Board, correct. This includes everybody else, but $250,000 is your bottom line and you allocate within there.
And that's pretty historical of
Yes.
what you guys have done.
We looked at the past of what you guys had been allocating previously and kind of are keeping it consistent. We also I was kind of questioning, why are we giving more than the city? When we seem to have less funding than the city, why are we giving more? And I know that the nonprofits are huge in our community. I get that. We fund them through grants as well. But I feel like having a little more structure also helps with things. There is not a grant that I apply for that does not tell you how much money is up for grabs. I think it might help in getting some of these huge $75,000 requests as well. You might get them, but it might discourage that a little bit too. And then having to make that call in the end. So, I mean, it's totally up to you. If you guys don't want to do it this year, that's fine. It's your call. Brady did go ahead and get a spreadsheet together, so it's all ready for you guys. And we can pull the numbers then when all three of you guys fill it out. If you don't want to do it, then that's fine too. But we just thought it was a good way to do it instead of just kind of sitting here and, yeah, we kind of like this one, we like this one. This just has a little more structure to it. And then if somebody comes back and questions things, we can certainly share this document. So.
I like it.
I like
I think it's excellent to look at it and try it now and see how it works.
So
I think a little more structure is great.
And my one change to it would be 250 would be the floor.
Okay.
And then because right now we're at 408. That's.
Well, and the
That
408 includes the
airport.
airport.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're looking at about 275, I think, was without all the airport fare and library. So.
Okay.
And I think I didn't have a chance to look at this.
Because I don't see the airport in that
Yeah,
list.
and they shouldn't be in this list.
So is that 400, that's total for what the asks are then?
Yeah, that was the request. That was not the amount that you guys had talked about 2 weeks ago.
Okay, okay.
I can tell you what you got.
Yeah, okay. Would you
Yeah.
put that in that spreadsheet? Then we'll just do the
Yep,
homework.
I will send it out tonight
Yeah.
when I get on a computer, and if you guys can have it back to us by the Tuesday before, and then we can have it ready for you guys by Wednesday. Is that-
Are you all right? We will do that.
Okay. Also, real quick, I wanted to let you know, I did hear back from Rocky Mountain Power today about the Blue Sky grant. We were not funded this year. They said we are welcome to reapply. They want us to remove the road and bridge building because that would not have a battery attached to it. They didn't like that. Also, they want cash out of our pocket to match that. They do not want us then to go after the incentive. They want to see 20% coming from the county as cash match towards that. If Brittany, I ran the numbers real quick, it's about a $200,000 project, 211, I believe, just for the SARS building. So it'd be about $42,000 that the county would have to pick up that they're requesting. So just so you know, think about that before next Wednesday too, because I need to change my match budget if that's what you guys would like to do, is to go for that, because it's just a shorter window of grants. I can't just put it in next year. So, okay.
Thank you,
Yep.
Bailey. All good ideas. Appreciate it.
Thanks for bringing this forward. It's definitely worth it. I think it's a great idea.
Any other stuff, Tracy, Kayla, Amanda, that we need to talk about before we wrap this work session up? I want to make sure.
We have everything to do the proposed budget unless you have something, Tracy. I just have, when I do get those final numbers, and I'm looking to propose some transfers for any excess. Do you guys have a strong desire to go to one fund or another, or a preference in?
I'd like to replenish the account that the roofs came out of, because I can imagine there won't be
Building.
much in there. Yeah.
I would like to too. That scares me.
Yeah, any second choice?
Buildings.
New ones, old ones, all the above? Okay.
Absolutely replace that as high as we can. I wouldn't like to think that something bad could happen, but
Don't say that.
when it starts to rain.
All right.
I just want to clap. Clap you, our employees, our department heads, all you guys, you did such a good job working together today. It's really great to have such wonderful employees.
All right. Well, we'll take a little bit of a breather here, go use the bathroom, and then we'll start back up with the county commission meeting for June 18th here in 10 minutes. Call it 10.
Yeah.
Okay. You're welcome.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the County Commission regular meeting for June 18th, 2024. We have just gone through the work session for the budget. And then we will have one more meeting with that next week. I'd like to call the meeting in order. Commissioner Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Rivera.
Here.
Mr. Gosar also here. Could you stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3, a public hearing, that we have none. Item 4, public comments. Are there any comments from the public? I don't see anybody online, but if there are public comments here in the room, do entertain them. Last call for public comments. Commissioners, I entertain a motion to close the public comment.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Disclosures, Commissioner Jones, any disclosures?
None.
Commissioner Rivera?
I have none.
And none for me. 6, considerations of changes on the agenda. Bailey, please. Thank you.
I just have one item. I got an agreement today, so I'd like to add that. It's an agreement between the Wyoming Office of Homeland Security and Albany County in the amount of $74,270 for the purchase of mobile radios.
Okay, and I think your last item is like
You
15.
can put me wherever you want. It's not that long of an agenda.
Okay. Okay, let's just put you there at 15A.
Sounds good, thank you.
And that's Homeland Security.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else have a change to the agenda? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. 8, that moves us to page 2, the bottom of page 2. Item 8 on the regular agenda. Acknowledge receipt of the request for Title III funds and direct the clerk to advertise. Kayla. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. We gotta get off budget and get onto the shift gears here. I received a request from the sheriff to request funds for the sheriff's office in the amount of $11,893.69, and the same for the fire warden. They always split evenly. They use it. Let's see here. So both fire warden qualifies by, he carries out activities under the Firewise Communities Program to provide to homeowners and fire sensitive ecosystems education on and assistance with implementing techniques in home siting, home constructions, and home landscaping that can increase the protection of people and property from wildfires. And the sheriff's office qualifies by reimbursing the participating county for search and rescue and other emergency services, including firefighting that is performed on federal land after the date on which the use was approved under subsections B and then paid for by the participating county. I will advertise, I have to advertise, and then it'll come back for a public hearing, and then you guys will approve to allocate those funds. So you're just acknowledging receipt that we received the letter from the sheriff.
Do you need a motion that we acknowledge the receipt?
Please.
I'd entertain that motion, Commissioners.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Item 9, take from the table renewal of the restaurant liquor license. Commissioners, can I get that motion, please?
I move that we take from the table the renewal of the restaurant liquor license. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That's off the table. Kayla, item 10 is present for approval renewal of restaurant liquor license. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I have for you the application for the renewal of a restaurant liquor license for Old Corral Mountain Lodge Inc. doing business as Old Corral. At the 6-4 meeting, we had the public hearing, which by statute has to happen 30 days before the expiration of the license, which that happened. It was fine. They are in the process of selling the property. So They weren't sure if they were going to renew, what they were going to do. They would like to renew as of right now. And then there may be a transfer application coming in later with the new owners, but I had to hold it back from the last meeting just because I wasn't sure what their intentions are with the sale of the property, but they are going to go forward with renewing the license. So at your pleasure, if you would approve this license, I'd appreciate it.
Commissioners, any questions? I'll entertain a motion for item 10, please.
I move that we approve item 10 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you, Kayla. Oh, you have one more.
I do.
11, discuss and approve purchasing desks for circuit court.
So during the roof renovation, during the roof replacement, there has been some leaking through the roof into circuit court. It leaked on Jen Beeston's desk, also on Kayla's desk, and a printer. So there's some things in talking with Jennifer and Joe over at Warm, it needs to be turned into the insurance company from the roofers company because of the fact that it happened because of what they're doing. I don't think they're getting a lot of traction moving forward. The issue is here is that, so we own the office furniture because the county supplies the office furniture for circuit court and district court. Jen Beeson is worried because her desk is so warped that they're worried that it's going to fall on her. I think she's got one of the, if you saw in the packet, she had 3, and I forgot to print those off. I think she has a stanchion, and I think she's worried about that happening. I told her we could move forward. The commissioner, we have money in courthouse renovation. If we'd like to just replace the desk, and then once it goes through the insurance would reimburse the county back. I just don't think we should leave her in that situation of possibly having an issue, a bigger issue with, some kind of accident happening because her desk is not in a good place. So I asked Jennifer Beeston if she could just supply me with some quotes on desks, and then I would bring it to you and you guys could make that decision as to whether or not to approve them going forward with purchasing a desk for Kayla.
Is it a desk or desks?
Just one desk. I asked the same thing because I thought Jen Beeston, her desk is not damaged to the point where they need to. Hers is, I think, in a situation where they're worried that it's going to.
Kayla's is.
Yes, that it's going to fall on her and hurt her. It's pretty warped, I guess. I think there was quite a bit of water.
Well,
leakage.
If it's that bad, and I'm not trying to argue that it is or it isn't, because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Then I would suggest that you get whatever the bids are, you make the decision so she gets a desk in the next couple of days without having to come back before us.
Well, I think if you guys just approve that we can just order the desk right now and just
Okay.
pay for it out of courthouse renovation, I'm okay to do that, whether I put it
Okay.
on my credit
That
card and
works.
then it just gets paid through the county. I don't have a problem with that. I'll work with Jen Beeston up in circuit court to get one ordered for her. I think, I don't know what the top dollar is on the most expensive one, or you just want to say that she can just order the desk and we'll just pay for it.
Well,
I'm okay with
She
that
doesn't
too.
need to have a bird's eye.
No,
walnut.
no, I would rather it not happen that way. So
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the purchase of a desk for circuit court. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Thank you,
Thank
Kayla,
you.
for being willing to work with circuit court
yeah,
on
no
that.
problem. Thank you.
12, present for approval memorandum of understanding between the University of Wyoming and Commissioners of Albany County to provide support for the University of Wyoming Extension Program.
The price pizzas.
Yeah.
I should just stay down there. This is just the MOU stating the responsibilities of the extension educator and the county's responsibility in providing a space for them. I don't think that anything has changed. I kind of looked at the last one that we did and it looks pretty standard.
Looked at it too.
It's very sad. I don't think anything has changed. Of course, Amanda is out because she had her baby. So she was not able to be here tonight. So, but
Commissioners, any questions? Not an entertain a motion for item 12 then, please.
I move that we approve item 12 as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Thank you, Kayla. 13, ratify application to the Wyoming Department of Transportation, WIDOT, for the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration funds to fund Albany County Sheriff's Department and overtime enforcement of impaired driving and occupant protection, high visibility for fiscal year 25. Sheriff, thank you.
Commissioners, thank you. So this is just ratifying an application that we were notified from WIDOT for those national pass-through dollars for high visibility enforcement. It's basically a renewal of a yearly grant that we have every year, both for, in layman's terms, DUI enforcement and then seatbelt occupant protection enforcement. So this is the first out of the 3 steps that we go to secure that funding.
Commissioners, any questions for Sheriff? Not entertain a motion for 13 then, please.
I move that we approve item 13 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. 14, ratify letter of support for Greater Wyoming Big Brothers Big Sisters for a grant application. 14 in my packet was something different.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we never got the letter.
I was gonna say, there's a couple of things like when I'm just looking at the packet.
You know who did that?
I have
I
it.
thought it was, I thought that was anything, but.
There you go. My apologies.
So, the Steve Hamburger reached out requesting a letter. He basically wrote the letter for us. I added a few things, and signed it. I asked Jennifer because we didn't have a commission meeting. The application was due yesterday. So I signed it on your behalf. And so we're just asking you that you ratify it. We're putting in an application to the Wyoming Community Foundation.
Totally botched it. Yeah, motion.
And entertain a motion for 14.
I move that we ratify the letter of support for Greater Wyoming Big Brothers Big Sisters for a grant application.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Item 15, present for approval, grant award agreement between the Wyoming Office of Homeland Security and Albany County in the amount of $57,059 to provide secure, reliable, and versatile election network with additional security.
This is the agreement for kind of this leftover funding, that the Homeland Security Office had. This is going towards items for the equipment for elections that IT wants to purchase. So, and this is just the agreement. We've already got the approval to go ahead and purchase those.
Thank you, David. Commissioners, any questions? If not, I entertain a motion for 15, please.
I move that we approve item 15 as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. 15A, Homeland Security Grant.
So this is just like the same as the last one. These were leftover. This was leftover funding. Kate submitted an application for the rest of her 3-year radio plan, the rest of those radios, and she got it. We already have approval to purchase those, so we just need the signatures on the agreement.
Thank you, David. Commissioners, any questions? If not, I entertain a motion for 15A, please.
I move that we approve the agreement between Homeland Security and Albany County for the purchase of mobile radios at the cost of $74,270. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Item 16, present for approval, resolution 2024-015, vacating the north 36 feet of First Street along the south boundary of block 55 of the Centennial Plat. Direct the chairperson to sign the 3 associated quitclaim deeds transferring the vacated property to the adjacent landowners and to direct the clerk to record the quitclaim deeds in land records. Jennifer.
So good evening, commissioners. This is the last step in the vacation for Preston Harrer. It was approved by the commissioners, I believe, in March. We put it out via publication and sent the required notices. No objections were received within that 30-day notice period. And then we were waiting on and finally got the survey from Mr. Harris, surveyor, with the legal descriptions. So that's what we needed to be able to finalize this part. And the piece will transfer to, there are 3 adjacent landowners that own the lots on that block. Mr. Harrer, Valley's, it's not Valley's End.
Valley Investments.
Valley Investments. Valley's End is Jill Gustafson. And then an individual owns the ones on the north end of that block. So they'll each get the piece that is adjacent to the lots that they already own.
Commissioners, any questions? I have to tell you, I'm pretty unimpressed with what had happened out in Centennial. Somebody started to build in that right of way before the quitclaim deed was even produced. I'm having a real hard time with the person who built in there to sign the quitclaim deed, or my vote to sign their quitclaim deed tonight. Because that's not how you do things. This was an ask by the landowners. And then not to follow landowner who builds on things they don't own. Yeah, I have to tell you that if we do any more vacations in Centennial, I would love to see that if you build on things you don't own, you will immediately lose the vacation right to your property. And so I'm unwilling to sign, or I'm unwilling to vote for the quitclaim deed for the organization that built in the right of way. I would like them to come talk to the commission and have an understanding of what was going on in their minds when you go pour a pad and dig. So.
I'm gonna say, I absolutely agree.
And the one thing that I will say is it was Preston Harrer that put this in. It was not Preston Harrer that built. It was one of his neighbors, which is a unique situation and does make it harder for him, right? He's doing all the right things. He's waiting. He's going through this whole process on behalf of everyone. And then that happens. I know David's office went out and looked also. I'm not sure what the resolution is. I have not heard.
I didn't hear back either. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know what the resolution is. In fact, somebody in Centennial contacted with me, and then I have not heard from the owner of that property at all. And
we have not, for the owner of the property that built.
Yes.
We have not either.
Yeah.
I think it was a tiny home that was put on there or something.
There was a pad and then a tiny home. That's what I was
That's
told.
what I
I
was
have
told
not
too.
driven up there. I haven't looked. I don't know.
So is there a way to exempt him from this?
So there's the problem we run into is that the vacation itself was approved. I think holding it, if we don't do that piece, Harris piece is here, it's this piece and then the other piece. So it'll be a very wonky kind of a situation. There's nothing that says that you can't do it.
Do you have a time limit on this? So could we
No.
bring this at the next commission meeting?
We do. We could.
We could.
Yes. And in the meantime, I can reach out to the record owners of that property that did build and ask them to come in and attend the next commission meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I am happy to do that.
Would you like to table
I
it?
move that we table item 16 till our next meeting, at which point
Okay.
We have that
Yep.
particular landowner come before the commission and explain himself.
I will do that, and I will also notify Mr. Harrer, just so he knows where we are.
Yep.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Thank you all. 17, Present for approval, notice of cancellation of RFP for custodial services for 3 Albany County buildings. Jennifer, please.
So commissioners, what you have in front of you for this agenda item is a notice to the one company that submitted a response to our RFP for custodial services. The RFP by its terms allow us to cancel that RFP before it was awarded. And after discussion with Anthony and Anissa, and in light of the next agenda item that you're going to be considering, we're requesting that the RFP be canceled, even if we choose to not go through with item number 18. I would advise that if we don't go through with item number 18, if we put this back out to bid with only one response that was significantly higher, we knew there would be an increase, right? But it was significantly higher, and it's hard to decide whether that's reasonable or not reasonable when we only have one response.
Jennifer, commissioners, any questions? Not an entertain a motion for 17 then, please.
I move that we approve item 17 as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Jennifer. 18, request to hire a part-time custodial position. Anissa, good evening. Thank
Good
you.
evening, commissioners. Thank you. So piggybacking on what Jennifer stated, we've come up with some salary numbers, and the savings that it would cost, that it would provide to the county. So a part-time custodian, the job description would be, cleaning the annex once a week, the crime victim witness building once a week, Albany County Road and Bridge once a week, and Albany County Public Health every day, Monday through Friday, with a salary of $19.23 an hour. Anthony's pretty confident that he can find some people or find a person who would do a good job. So at 16 hours, that would save the county $12,421 annually, and at 19 hours a week would save the county $9,146. And I'm trying to read his chicken scratch and 84 cents. But he's confident that the person could get it done in the 16 hours a week. So.
Thank you, Anissa. Commissioners, any questions? Entertain a motion for 18 then, please.
I move that we approve item 18 as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Thank you,
Thank you.
Anissa. Appreciate it.
And we'll
Thank
put
you.
those numbers into Anthony's budget. for
Thank you.
this next fiscal
Thank
year.
you.
So you'll have those for.
19, present for approval, memorandum of understanding between the Albany County Commissioners and the U.S. Department of Agriculture Workforce Service Washington office service-wide for the purpose of documenting a framework for cooperation and to define the relationship and duties between the parties in the preparation of an environmental impact statement for the National Old Growth Amendment. So this came across my desk. I know it did not come to you all. I felt uncomfortable signing it without having a discussion with you. Even though the deadline was June 10th, I sent a note to the person with the deadline and said, can we have this at commission meeting? Will that be too late? They said, no, that's fine. So it is just outlining the rules of the road for the EIS for the old growth forest with the forest.
EIS?
Environmental impact statement, excuse me. Environmental impact statement for the old growth MOU that is being discussed about. We don't have to sign it. It just allows us to be at the table if we do sign it. I'd entertain a motion for 19 if there are no further questions.
I move that we approve item 19 as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. 20, present for approval, lease agreement between the Albany County Board of Commissioners and and American Legion Husted Pendleton, Wyoming Post 114 for the Albany County Victim Witness Program of the Albany County and Prosecuting Attorney's Office from July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. Jennifer, thank you.
Good evening again. So I'm going to talk about 20 and 21 together. They're for the same building. We just split the rent between, or it's allocated between the two spaces. This lease is for another year. There's a 3% increase from last year, which results in about $600 in total for both leases. But other than that, there's no changes in the lease.
Commissioners, any questions? I guess we'll take them separate just because they're in there.
Yeah.
But now entertain a motion for item 20 then, please.
I move that we approve the lease agreement between the American Legion and the County Victim Witness Program from July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. 21, present for approval lease agreement between the Albany County Board of Commissioners and the American Legion Husted Pendleton File WY Post 114 for the Albany County Prosecuting Attorney's Office from July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. That was previously covered. Any other questions for Jennifer? Not entertain a motion for 21, please.
I move that we approve item 21 as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Item 22, approve payroll and vouchers for June 2024. Commissioners, I entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the payroll and vouchers for June 2024. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Item 23, adjourn. Seeing no more business before the Albany County Commission on June 18th, 2024, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Then moved and seconded. Any further